Another season of Gonzaga basketball is nearly upon us. We've already had craziness at the Kennel. The two preseason exhibition games are right around the corner against Eastern Oregon and then against Lewis and Clark State, which NAIA Power, they were in the national title game at their level a season ago, although it is not going to matter going against Gonzaga this upcoming season. They played each other in years past, but again, Gonzaga is now one of the true blue bloods. So as we get going in year 2 of the Bulldog Broadcast with myself, your host, Dan Dickau, we just wanted to cover a few different things, share some insight of what I see with this year's team, both in how the schedule breaks down, as well as looking at individual players, and then maybe touch on a little bit of the league. But we are going to this year bring lots of great guests, just as we hopefully did a year ago that you were a listener to, you enjoyed. The first episode of this season will be Adam Morrison, or was Adam Morrison, with the first release. We're going to also be getting the local TV broadcast crew, Greg Heister, Richard Fox, and Chauncey Jones, the producer, in one of these early season podcasts, so we can kind of break it down together and we can get each of them on the record with what they see happening and how they see the season kind of transpiring. So just a few early season thoughts that I have when I look at this team is just absolutely amazing what Coach Few and staff have done at Gonzaga. Not just to get to their first Final Four a few years back, but then to get back a season ago in the fashion that they did. Undefeated season, as everybody knows. Terrific win against UCLA, and then a heartbreaking loss to Baylor. Some people were disappointed, but at the end of the day, big picture, people keep saying, Gonzaga can't win one. Well, look at it this way. At some point, they're going to keep knocking on the door, and that door is going to open, and they're going to win a national title. Could this be the year? Absolutely. Would it be disappointing if it's not for a Gonzaga fan? Absolutely. But the thing that you have to understand and enjoy as a Gonzaga fan is gone are the years of thinking and hoping that just, maybe they get to a Sweet 16. They're in the Sweet 16 literally every single year. The question now is, when are they going to break through and win a national title? It doesn't happen overnight, but you've got to have good enough rosters based on experience, talent, and youth that has potential to grow during the course of a year to even be in that conversation. And what we're seeing now at Gonzaga is that's almost every single year, and it's only a matter of time. So just want to quickly break through the schedule. I love what Gonzaga continues to do with Coach Few, building schedules that test them, gets them ready in the non-conference, so that the kind of doldrums of January and February in the WCC, they've seen the high-level teams that they're going to that they will see and have to beat in the NCAA tournament to advance. They will already have seen that. Now, on the WCC side, and we'll touch on that a little bit later, WCC is much improved. I continue to argue this with Greg Heister at length, that the WCC is a much better basketball conference than a lot of people give them credit for. It's just Gonzaga has distanced themselves that much. I mean, you look at Ken Palm's early rankings, WCC is the number 7 basketball conference in the country, behind the Power 5 and then the Big East. And they're not much further behind the Big East when you look at the analytics that they present. So we'll touch on that. But really quick, I love Gonzaga's non-conference. I mean, who wouldn't? You play number 5 Texas literally right out of the gate. Yeah, they play, an opening cupcake in game 1. But, Texas is going to be a very good basketball team. I mentioned you need experience at the college level to have success. Well, they have it. They got 7 transfers under Chris Beard, and Chris Beard has become, one of the elite coaches in the college game. You saw what he did at Texas Tech with defensively just shutting down Gonzaga when they had Rui and Brandon Clark a few years back. You're going to see a defensive focused team and then a very good offensive team in Texas as the season progresses. But I don't think offensively Texas will be as far along as where Gonzaga will be at that point of the year. And I think a lot of that is just based on my experience of being around teams that have a coach that really hangs their hat on the defensive end, which is how I perceive Chris Beard to be. But that'll be a heck of a game. November 13th in Spokane. Love the fact that Chris Beard is coming with Texas to Spokane, and not the Spokane Arena, but on campus. That'll be a great one. Then you got the rematch with UCLA down in Las Vegas. That's going to be interesting. UCLA, preseason AP number 2, right behind Gonzaga at 1. And they return everybody from that Final Four team. They were a team that made a tremendous run. They clicked, they gelled at just the right time in the NCAA tournament and made a great run. Johnny Juzang decided to pull his name out of the NBA hat. I can see a little bit of Corey Kispert decision-making in him by seeing what it was and then making the right choice coming back and improving upon it and being a leader and all those things. So he's going to be a tremendous asset to have for Mick Cronin to have back. You also then look at Peyton Watson, a great freshman from Long Beach Poly, just outside LA. He's a freshman. He's got high potential. So you add him to the mix with 5 returning starters, UCLA is going to be dangerous. That's going to be a fun game to watch. The November 26th one, I think, is one that, any Gonzaga fan has always looked forward to an opportunity to play against Duke. Gonzaga has always scheduled the best West Coast teams that they could in the Pac-12, and they've never shied away from scheduling and playing against any of the national powers. And Duke being the biggest name, the biggest national power probably there is, due to Coach K and all the Final Fours and the titles that they've won. But this game has even more excitement and relevance because both teams are going to be very good. Both teams have probably the top 2 freshmen in the country. Chet Holmgren, obviously, for Gonzaga, and Paolo Banchero for Duke, are, in my eyes, the 2 best freshmen. I think they're going to battle it out throughout the course of the year in critics and analysts' eyes as the freshman of the year and the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. I think those 2 are clearly the best 2 freshmen, although there are some other good ones across the country. That's going to be an interesting matchup, but also the fact that, it's Coach K's last year. So every game, there's going to be extra eyes on it. This game will have a ton of setup eyes on it because of Gonzaga just coming off of a national title game. As long as Gonzaga doesn't slip up against Texas or UCLA, they will be ranked number 1. And that's not something that Duke usually goes against a number 1 team. They're usually the number 1 ranked team when there's a matchup such as that one will be. The December 4th game against Alabama, I'm really interested in because I think Nate Oates is a tremendous coach. I think, his analytic style maybe rubs some people the wrong way because, when you look at them, their threes, their layups or paint shots, paint touches, or free throws. That is where the bulk of their offense comes from. They discourage mid-range pull-ups. And that's his philosophy, but he sticks with it. But one of the reasons I think that he's a tremendous coach is if you look at a lot of offensive philosophy-driven coaches aren't good on the defensive end or vice versa. But Alabama was great defensively a season ago. I think they were top 3 or 4 defensive efficiency a season ago as far as opponents' point per possession and field goal percentage. So Nate Oates has a tremendous balance of getting them to play on both ends of the floor. And then 2 other non-conference really quickly. December 12th against UW. That's always an in-state game that I don't necessarily want to call it a rivalry game, but it's a game that brings a lot of interest for people in the Northwest to watch that one. December 18th, Texas Tech. Another chance for Gonzaga to play against a power conference team. Outside of the loss against Baylor in the NCAA title game a year ago, Gonzaga has owned the Big 12 in recent years. It'll be interesting to see how that game plays out as well. So before we move on to the next topic, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet,
Now's the time because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to BetRivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Quick thoughts on the schedule. Now, when you look at the roster, I can't remember a Gonzaga team with this much talent and experience blended with talent and youth that has unbelievable upside. You look at that a couple of the years where Gonzaga finally broke through to the NCAA Final Four, and then I believe it was the year before that or after that, the 2-year group. You had practices you would go down, and it would be Corey Kispert as a young player learning his way, and Zach Norvell and Killian Tilly and Zach Collins and Jonathan Williams and Nigel Williams-Goss. I mean, the talent on those teams was spectacular, but this year's team is very similar. When you look at the roster, there's 6-7 legit NBA prospects. Now, some of the young guys, they got a ways to go before they would be able to play at that level. But again, prospects. I mean, you got a couple can't misses, and then you've got a couple others that are definite prospects that are, as long as they continue to improve, they're going to set themselves up to have a definite chance to have a nice pro career. But Drew Timme, what more can you say? Preseason National Player of the Year in pretty much every publication. I've had a chance to go down to practice a couple times. Yeah, he's playing with a determination that you don't probably always see in Players of the Year candidates that are returning with the accolades that he has. I mean, it's been impressive to watch him really kind of go after it. Same footwork. He's tried to extend his range to three-point line a little bit. And I don't think that's going to come into play a crazy amount this year, but it's something that he has to do to prove to NBA front offices that he can knock down a corner three or have the ability to hit a trail three or a pick and pop three. But that's not going to be a huge focus. He's going to be a tremendous playmaker from the post, whether it's low block or isolated at the elbows or the nail. I mean, he's going to be the focal point of what they do. Andrew Nembhard, I mean, he might have been the best pick and roll player a season ago in college basketball. I don't see that changing. He looks like as if he's gotten a little bit stronger in the offseason. When I talked to the coaching staff, they thought he's done a really nice job of repping out his jumper, and they're looking for a boost in his ability to knock down threes. I think he shot it around 33% a season ago. I mean, if he can bump that up to 30, 38, 39%, that's going to be a definite bonus for him looking towards an NBA future. But it also helped keep the defenses honest, because when you look at this roster, I don't see any completely dead knockdown shooters like they had with a Corey Kispert a season ago. Anton Watson, he showed a lot to me in the practices that I've been at. Just because of his experience, he's always in the right spot, and that's something that I don't think the average fan really looks at, but Coach Few and staff are absolutely going to value that. He's going to be in the right spots defensively. He can guard, he can guard 2 through 5 at the college game, which is a huge asset. Offensively, you can go small and put him at the 5, although I don't think you're going to need to do that this year because you got Timme and Chet Holmgren and a couple other young bigs that might have a chance to make an impact at different points. But again, every great college basketball team needs experience. Anton Watson provides that. It looks like he's past some of his injuries, and so I'm looking for him to have an impactful year. Chet Holmgren, next up, number 1 recruit out of Minnesota, played high school with Jalen Suggs, which is the easy kind of connect the dots to get him to Spokane. But also, he comes to Spokane because he sees how players have developed in Gonzaga's system, whether it was for 1 year, like a Zach Collins, whether it was a 2 years like, uh, 2 or 3 years like a DeMontis Sabonis, a Rui Hachimura, a Brandon Clark. I can only imagine he saw the development of some of those guys and thought, that's something that I want to be a part of, alongside of being a part of a great culture in a program that is knocking on the door of winning a national title, and this may be the year. What you've read about him, seen about him, heard about him, it's all true. Multi-talented. He can score it from almost anywhere on the floor. He's got a great feel for the game. His IQ is tremendous. He can rebound it and push and make plays as a big, very similar to a guard. So that's going to be something fun to watch for Gonzaga fans. A little bit like Rui Hachimura would grab a rebound, push it in transition, and see what happens. Killian Tilly would do the same thing. Chet Holmgren's going to be great at that. But defensively, he can block shots and he can alter shots. I mean, his ability to cover ground is pretty phenomenal, and it's going to be. I would not be surprised to see a couple, 7-8 block games. He may even get a triple double. I know we had a triple double. We've been on triple double watch at different points with Joel Ayayi. He got one last year. Jalen Suggs was close a couple different times, but we might see a triple double with blocks be the case with Chet Holmgren. Now we're kind of looking at, to me, those are our 4 entrenched starters. I can see Watson maybe sliding out of that and somebody else stepping in, but I see Watson as the starter to begin the season. The next 4 guys who I'm going to go through, each one of those have an opportunity to maybe be that 5th starter. But the nice thing for Coach Few and staff, there's so many different ways that they can go. I really like the additions of the freshmen, and I think Rasir Bolton, who I'll touch on first, is this next group of 4 guys, has a chance to be a real impact player. Transfer from Iowa State, where he averaged around 13, 14 points a game. What I've seen in the practices I've been to is a long, athletic, aggressive, attacking guard at about 6'3", who shoots it a whole heck of a lot better than his numbers at his previous stops. Penn State and Iowa State have shown. Gonzaga stats out everything in practice, from deflections to missed assignments defensively to shooting percentages. And in talking to the coaches, Bolton has been one of, if not their best 3-point shooter in early season practices. I wouldn't be surprised to see him start. I wouldn't be surprised to see him the first 1 or 2 guard off the bench, but he's going to play a big part. Hunter Salas is the next one, another one of the great freshmen. He's from Omaha, Nebraska. I think, if anybody watched the craziness in the kennel or saw some of the highlights, you see the explosiveness. I think his early ability to impact the game is going to be defensively creating nightmares for opposing guards, because he's that quick, he's that long, he's got great instincts, and then getting out in transition. I mean, you saw the athleticism. He's going to be able to finish. He's tweaked his jump shot a little bit from what I saw with highlight videos when he had committed and signed with Gonzaga. It looks like he's been working on his mechanics, and those mechanics are going to help improve his consistency and his percentages over time. But it takes a while when you change your jump shot to be able to get that repetition and the consistency out of it. Julian Strahler is the next one. He looked terrific in the scrimmage. I think he's a bucket getter, but he's got to figure out exactly where those buckets are going to come from. In high school, he was over a 30-point per game scorer. Gonzaga, you got to be really efficient. So I think he's got to find ways to get out in transition, get an easy bucket in each half, get himself fouled and get to the free throw in each half, find an open 3 in each half. I mean, you look at it right there, that's 14 points. And if he does those things, he could be a tremendous scorer for this ball club. He might be the one that maybe takes Anton Watson's starting spot and becomes a 3, or maybe he's a 2. And if that were the case, say you had him at the 2, Watson at the 3, Timmy and Holmgren as your bigs with Andrew Nemhart, who's about 6'4". That is a tremendously big college basketball team with size and length, and you could do some really interesting things defensively, whether it's three-quarter court pressure, whether it's extended zones. You could even pack it in a little bit and dare everybody to shoot over the top. That'd be really interesting to see. The last freshman in this group of four that is a backcourt player, somebody that I think has a tremendous future. He might even be able to slide into a starting spot. Again, you see, a little hesitancy on myself to kind of name, that fifth starter or maybe even that fourth starter. I think Nemhart, Timmy, and Holmgren obviously locked in, but then those other two are really interesting. But Nolan Hickman, saw him play a couple times in high school, and I really like him. I think he's great in the pick and roll, and he will get better as he works on the different reads that they go over in practice. I think his creativity with the ball, his vision, his passing is great. I think he will become a better three-point shooter as he gets comfortable with the college games. His mechanics, his fundamentals are great. It's just a matter of getting up to speed at the college game, but I think he's going to be a real asset to the program, not in years to come, but this year. I think he's that good. Next three guys are guys that I think have an opportunity. A lot of it's going to be dependent on when their early season opportunities come. Do they make the most of them? And the first two that I'll talk about are both big guys. Ben Gregg and Caden Perry both played really well in that scrimmage. And what those guys did in the scrimmage, if they get opportunities early in the season and they play the way that they did in that scrimmage, they will prove to Coach Few and the staff that they're ready to go and they're ready to provide minutes. Because I think when you just look at it early, those are the guys that are hoping for a chance. But when they get that chance, they got to make the most of it. Ben Gregg and Caden Perry did that in the scrimmage. Ben Gregg is a pick and pop, step out four. But what I've seen in practice so far this year is his willingness to bang and rebound. And he had the advantage of graduating high school early, getting to Gonzaga last year, kind of that Christmas break time. And so he's a little bit further along than the other freshmen as far as understanding where to be at defensively, where to be at offensively, what the expectations are. And so I think that gives him an advantage, but I think he's going to be a really good player. Caden Perry, people obviously remember Brandon Clark's athleticism. Well, Caden Perry's the exact same way. He plays extremely hard. He's extremely athletic, and he competes like crazy. You start to add the knowledge that you gain early in your college career of practices and some experiences, and his growth curve is going to accelerate, and it's going to be really fun to watch. But I think, he had a difficult offseason last year with Washington High School playing in the spring because of COVID. He had a back injury in May, and he didn't do much up until September. He had to heal. He had to go through the rehab and the therapy. And so he really wasn't on the court until recently. And so he's got to fully get back in shape. He's got to fully get back and repping out, pick and pop jumpers, catching on the roll and finishing with either hand, post moves with his footwork with on either block and finishing it with either hand. But I think he's got a tremendous future in front of him. Dom Harris, he's in a difficult spot because he showed opportunity, or he showed flashes last year, I thought, especially defensively, where he could be an impact player for Gonzaga down the road. And talking to the young man at practice earlier this year, he's got a great outlook on what he can bring and what this program's all about. But he got hurt in the preseason, and I still haven't heard any word of how long his recovery time is going to be. So wish that young man a quick recovery. But, he's athletic. He's a competitor. He really is aggressive attacking the rim. And if he can rep out that jump shot and make that consistent, he's going to definitely vie for some minutes when he gets back as well. So those are the core 9 that I think are really going to be core 11 that are going to have a chance to play big minutes. The first 8 for sure, and then the last 3, Greg Perry and Dominic Harris, I think are definitely going to play. But it's going to be a matter of when their opportunity comes early, do they make the most of it? And as I said, Greg and Perry, they both made the most of it in the scrimmage. But again, these are all things that Coach Few has a lot of pieces to work with this year. It's going to be interesting and fun to see, how this all plays out. Just really want to quickly touch on the league. The WCC, I think, continues to be undervalued in a lot of people's eyes across the country, and that's because Gonzaga has been dominant for so long. I think that's going to be the case again. I think people are going to talk about Gonzaga running the table in league again. I think BYU is going to be a good team. I think Barcelo, with him coming back, they're going to have a chance, to give some teams fits, but I don't think they have the firepower to knock off Gonzaga. St. Mary's was down last year. I don't think they're going to be as down this year. I really like what USF and Todd Golden have done. Bouye and Shabazz are a great backcourt. LMU with Stan Johnson, I think they were the surprise of the league last year. Eli Scott is back. They've gotten a number of transfers, including Cameron Shelton, who was at Northern Arizona. They played against Gonzaga last year. I think he averaged 19 a game in the Big Sky. He's now there. I think that's a really interesting roster and an interesting team to watch. Portland is new with pretty much everybody. I don't think a single player returned to Portland when Shante Legans took over for Terry Porter. Pacific, Damon Stoudemire left to be an assistant coach in the Boston Celtics. So that's going to be an interesting one to see if they continue on the path where they were making themselves a tough out for anybody in the league. So USD, they've struggled as of late. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But overall, I think the league is good. I think the league has benefited from Gonzaga's success, and each of the teams has and programs has improved, but Gonzaga has raised their expectations and their level as well. So I'm looking for an incredible league season. I will make the prediction right now that Gonzaga does go undefeated in the league. And I'm saying this even before the first preseason non-conference game, but that's my pick, and I'm sticking with it. So unless Greg Heister and Chauncey Jones and Richard Fox, when we have our broadcast crew come on, and unless they can talk me out of it, I'm staying with it. So this has been another episode of the Bulldog Broadcast for Dan Dickau on the Field of 68 Media Network. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to bringing you some more Gonzaga coverage throughout the season.